Carl, Chris, Ivan, we need more. Welcome back to Krown's Clickbait Cave, where we are going to be having a very serious topic today, the topic of technical analysis on magic internet monies. And before we get into it, I would like to wish you the best and the happiest on this nice little Thursday morning over here from a negative 3 degrees Celsius, Helsinki, Finland. I actually don't even speak Fahrenheit anymore, so I think I've become a full-on European, at least in spirit. With that said, plenty to talk about on the Krown Chain application over here, which can be found at app.krownchain.net. And what sticks out right now, Bitcoin dominance still hanging around the 63% marker. And this is coming in line with Bitcoin essentially having a bit of a turmoil yesterday. And I do want to match that up with a theory that is now potentially actually changing the market dynamics, which we're going to spend some time on today. On top of that, we do see that open interest hanging around the same area as well. So we haven't really seen the shattering of that region in order to really look for the next leg of this move just yet, which does call into question the efficacy of this move, which does in turn open up the possibility for an actual fake out, which we'll go over, and that'll be a big topic of discussion as well today. With that in mind, fear ingredient index coming down to a 55 from a 78, so that is the second to lowest I believe that we've seen in the last probably like 6 months, actually, going way well the hell on over here. Yeah, we did see for a second a momentary lapse at the end of last week, 40 read. However, other than that, it's been about since I think August, or maybe even before that, where we actually did see negative reads on the fear, or not negative, but neutral reads on the fear ingredient index. What else do we see as far as funding rate goes? Okay, so this is a big one today as well, and also does kind of play under the narrative that we actually might be seeing a major fake out. But again, there are going to be very specific criteria that is going to be laid out exactly for that case. And we do see several exchanges, actually the majority of exchanges, posting negative rates, meaning that you're actually getting paid to hold longs right now at about the $30,000 region, which is rather interesting, seeing as we only see, Binance is actually is just regular 0.01%. Femex probably a bad read right there. And by the way, we are going to be updating this with the new rendition of the app coming in Monday. Really excited about that one. And so that really does call into question a few things. So do you have any announcements to make before we get into the actual content itself? I'll be on Twitch for another raid session today if you want to hang on out. It's good, fun times. What else? Been uploading a bunch of indicator videos over the last couple nights. And of course, as always, they are 100% free. You can find them on YouTube. Actually, I think it's right there. Nice one. Anyways, into the price action charts we go. Let's start off with Ethereum today once again, because I still do think that Ethereum actually is looking all right here. And that's very, very strange because we don't really see Bitcoin in the same territory right now. Now, with that in mind, typically speaking, with the market narratives where everything kind of moves together, what would that typically mean? It would mean that Ethereum likely does come down to meet Bitcoin's current fall. But in this current dynamics, we haven't seen that over the last 24 hours, where Ethereum actually had a legitimate chance to really do that, and instead it's holding the 20 simple on the daily, as you can see right here on our secondary charts, and still consolidating according to the Bollinger Bands, of which I would certainly agree with. Volume signature would shape out on that as well, and technically speaking, it is still very much an uptrend as long as we have these higher highs and higher lows. Of course, that still does mean that our criteria for looking for a reversal on Ethereum is very much the same. That would be any sort of a move either below this wick low on the 21st of January, which would be 1048, let's just call it 1050, or a closure on a lower low, which would be anywhere below about 1111. And this is on, I think this is on Finex here. Anyways, or actually, no, it's on Stamp. Anyways, on top of that, we do still see that momentum oscillators are more or less the same where we left them off yesterday, which is really interesting because we don't really see any change as far as the range goes, even on the medium-term time frames. Looking at the daily MACD right here, we do still see it kind of keeling over a bit. And by the way, this can be the next video for tonight, so I need to remember to upload that one. But do you have everything done for it? I believe. Oh no, that's right. I needed a thumbnail. Oh. Speaking to myself once again, apologies. And then also the DMI ADX giving a no signal right here, which is rather interesting as well, as it's had a couple of chances to actually fire off a bullish signal just a few days ago, but did not take it. And then more importantly, now coming back down, and this is very obviously saying that this is consolidation as it is right now. So within the context of this current price action, that consolidation, well, first and foremost likely is, well, more of the same. And in this case, as long as we are maintaining those higher lows, I do struggle to get bearish on this one, just on its own. What makes me bearish on it is the fact that Bitcoin is, looking like it's breaking down is what it looks like. Does not look fucking good right here. DMI ADX on Bitcoin is giving you a bit of a short signal, as we do see that the DMI minus is technically dominant right now. I want to see it get a positive slope while the ADX remains in its positive slope as well. If those two conditions are met, especially on this next closure, then yes, I'd be looking for that further continuation of the downside. And that actually is my bias right here for Bitcoin, seeing as it did break below our 30,500-ish region last night. But let's talk about something very specific right now. While structurally speaking, I do go with that. And am I taking a short trade right here for full disclosure? No, I'm not. But there is a very specific criteria now for looking for a fake out. And that would be any sort of a closure on a daily above about 32,750, anywhere around here. And if we go down to, maybe we could do this on a 4 hour as well. On a 4 hour, what would that same level be? About 700-ish region. And if we're looking at we just looked at a daily, what would be another time frame, 12 hour, that we could look at as well? Anywhere above about 33,200. If any one of those conditions are met, then yes, I would be looking at this as a fake out. But until this actually does happen, I do struggle, or it's not that I struggle with that. It's just I look at this as more likely to break down. Looking at 12-hour DMI ADX, we do see that the ADX is getting strong right here. DMI minus is very close to firing off a signal. That could happen as soon as our next closure in 6 hours, 51 minutes, and 0 seconds actually. So even on the count. More importantly, though, as you can see, the MACD will have a chance as well. So with that in mind, if the MACD does get a bullish cross right here, it really doesn't mean much. If we get a bullish cross plus simultaneously getting back above this level right here, 33,200, then yes, that would actually mean quite a fair bit. Also, that would be by extension getting back above the 20 simple, which is currently governing our downtrend, as you can see. So with that in mind, I do hold major reservations for Bitcoin here. But as I alluded to in the beginning of this video, what we are seeing right now is potentially Bitcoin, Bitcoin actually breaking down, plus Ethereum, I mean, as far as it stands right now, holding the range. And if that actually does continue, where we actually see Ethereum not just hold the range, but break out to the upside of the range, while Bitcoin does reverse to the downside below 30,000 once again, then what would that imply? That would imply, for the first time in this market that I've ever seen, and I mean, I don't really think that I don't think that there's really a counterpoint to this, but that'd be the first time, at least to my knowledge, going throughout the whole fucking history of Bitcoin, that we've actually seen bifurcation between the two big boys, where there's a macro trend that is different from one to the next. And in this case right here, we do have that as a potential. It's not confirmed just yet. What I'd want to see is Ethereum breaking out to the upside while Bitcoin continues to the downside. If that happens, we have a completely new market dynamic going on. Has that ever happened in Bitcoin or the crypto space's history before? No, it has not. So we'd have to come in with some new biases. But for now, that is, well, technically speaking, unproven. And then more importantly, we've never seen that in the history. So it's not really the wisest of ideas to be betting on, in my experience. And I'd imagine that whichever direction that Bitcoin chooses is typically the one that the market's going to go. So I still do run with that narrative until proven otherwise, because it's been working for the last 11 fucking years. Doesn't mean that it's going to work for forever, but as long as that is, well, as long as we actually haven't even seen an example of it not working, then kind of hard to get on the same side of that, right? Anyways, but again, that's my certain proclivities as a trader here. I don't call reversals before they actually do happen. Anyways, moving on to the higher term timeframes. Do we have anything else to be aware of here on the 2-day? Still coming down. What about 3-day? I think we just got a fresh one last night. Yes, indeed we did. Having a fresh 3-day MACD cross to the downside, but that's not what we're looking for right there. What do we see on DMI ADX? Again, coming all the way down. So consolidation as far as this is concerned. And what about the weekly here too? Did come down to the 9x Benchmark average. So I do believe that yesterday we did say that while Bitcoin was angled towards the downside and likely does break to the downside, it very likely was also going to bounce off the daily 55 initially, and then have your actual move. And actually, I think that there's another bounce on the way as well. So let's go into our regular spot action price spot action charts right here. And yes, I am looking at this as a descending triangle as it is right now, because volume's working on it, the shape is working on it, the smell, size, and taste is all working on it right now, and that actually would have a measured move all the way down here towards our $23,000 to $24,000 region. That is very interesting because it is also confluent with our 21 exponential moving average on the weekly here, which is very, very interesting because anytime that you have seen Bitcoin in a macro uptrend rally, we typically do play out our bullish pullbacks, if you will, all the way down to the 21 on the weekly. You can go all the way back to the genesis over here, and you can see that if we got rid of everything else like this, let's just get rid of them right there. There we go. Then you'll quickly realize that throughout all these macro bullish environments, the test down to the 21 exponential moving average were, well, all major buys actually, as long as it had a positive slope on it. That is, this one over here did initially break through, but on the next closure did close above, and more importantly, that is why I operate off of an open and closure basis when it comes to moving averages. And then the whole 2015 to 2017 melt to the upside right here, same sort of thing, right? So at this current moment in time, guess what the 21 is? Around $23,000, and it will be rising up about well about $1,000 from week to week. So fair enough, it will come in a little bit under $24,000, I imagine, on the next tick coming in Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So a little bit of waiting for that to go, but more importantly, it is in the cards there, and I do like the confluence. So a lot of people a lot of people will then make the interpretation or make the assumption that just because it's done in the past, that's what has happened here. No, the way that I look at this is that historically it has been a good source of edge. So if things do come down around there, then I'm happy to take a trade. But doesn't mean that I just blindly target a region like that. Although we do see that patterns and we do see pattern and trend, both to the downside right here. So again, can this reverse? Can this turn into a fake out? Yes, it can. What would be my criteria for that? I need to see an absolutely clear closure. On a 4-hour. Probably actually use 34,500 still, to be fair. But if we're going to use a 12-hour, we could certainly use this hump right here, right around 33.3 or 33.2. And on a daily, that would be anywhere back around here is actually fine. 32,500. By the way, you'll also notice that while we are getting a little bit of a bounce off the 55 initially right now, what we did cover in the indicator skill video last night was this cross between the 10 symbol, this red 10 symbol right here, and the yellow 21 exponential moving average, which is a general sort of trend identification and a very, very, very simple tool here. But you can backtest it yourself and see that in strong trending markets, it's usually going to operate pretty damn well. During sideways consolidations, absolutely terribly. But I'm talking about just these two guys right here, the ketchup and the mustard, if you will. And while this is technically counter trend to the macro trend, which I usually don't look at those signals as workable for myself in the same way that I look at a bullish signal for this workable as itself. But that also obviously offers a little bit of edge on the other side, meaning that if we were to pop back above here, meaning that if Bitcoin were to take out those regions and fulfill the criteria for really considering this as a major trap, then we'd naturally see this cross back onto the upside. That'd be on the same side as the macro trend. That'd be a clear and obvious signal that not only do we have price action, but also momentum oscillators and trending oscillators on the same side, and that would very, 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 very likely lead to a nice move, at the very least up to 37,500 and maybe even 40,000 again. And at that point, I'd imagine that Ethereum probably has taken over, and we'd see it break out to the upside, and we see the rest of the market follow through with it, confirming that we are still seeing rotational marks within this, and Bitcoin is not leading right now. But as it stands right now, I do think that is at least it's not my main interpretation, because I do put the most weight on Bitcoin for what it's worth, and in this case right here, I do look at this as breaking our bottom side resolution yesterday. If we can go back onto our BitMexican charts, this is the one that we were using yesterday, and as long as it's following this downtrend, I have a hard time being bullish on it. At least in the short and medium term. The only way that I kind of get around that again is confirmation of trap, or maybe if Ethereum breaks the upside, because I do think that this market likely does work with itself, or does kind of play off each other. Anyways, looking at it right now, our lower term time frame momentum oscillators, how are they cooking up? We do see that 4-hour Stokes actually will remain pointed to the north side as long as we're above 29,600-ish region. So good for the short term time frames. Maybe does have another pop back up into the 32 or $33,000 region. But 4-hour RSI, what do we see right here? starting to lose its luster a lot. I would have said it would be considered constructive up until the 25th to 26th of this month, but now really starting to lose its luster right there. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily or I wouldn't say that it's constructive, but I also wouldn't say that it's incredibly bearish here either until it gets back into the bearish control zone for what it's worth. Looking at this right here, we do see that historical volatility percentile continues to contract into this region, which is also a little bit of an insight that we might be potentially looking at a trap right here. But again, I would really only confirm that with price action right now, because what we'd expect to see is an expansion phase as Bitcoin does break below our $30,500 region right here, which I just want to confirm that we actually did close healthily below it. Yeah, 33.75, this one over here. Yep, and I believe the daily close, same area as well. Yes, indeed, 33.81. Okay, fair enough. And let's just make sure that all exchanges are kind of in unison with this, because that would be another indication that we might be looking at a bit of a trappy trap. 30,400 on GDAX, and Stamp is showing 30,400 as well, and Finex is showing 30,420 actually. So most exchanges are pretty much right around there. BitMEX a little bit lower than the other ones, but all good in the hood, I suppose. Anyways, moving on through the lower term time frames, go through the 3 hour right here, and we do see 3 hour Stokes pointed up right now, and they'll remain to the upside as long as above 29,500, the exact same area pretty much as the 4 hours. So we are operating off of the same pivots right there. Technically speaking, this is not going to be helpful at all, but technically speaking, Bitcoin comes back down to this last prior low right here. There's a continuation, momentum turning back down again. Obviously, continuation implied after that, and we could still look for the next target, which would be somewhere around the low $27,000 region. Actually, wouldn't be right there; it'd be right here. In fact, would be the one that I'm looking for, right in the low $27,000 region. Yeah, about 27,200 to 27,300ish region. Would be looking for a bounce there. And in that bounce likely does fail. And then keep in mind the descending triangle formation over here does have a measure move all the way down to the $24,000 region. Again, confluent with the weekly 21, and also confluent with our last major highs, or sorry, our last major, I wouldn't even say major, but our last semi-major consolidation on the run up in December. So that would be good at the very least for a short and medium term time frame bounce. Could it also produce a reversal? Possibly yes, but I'd want to see it in real time. I would not feel comfortable talking about it this far in advance, that's for sure. Anyways, by hourly RSI, what do we see right here? Again, same thing as a 4 hour, 3 hour. I don't really have anything to add on to it that already hasn't been said on the 4 hour. What do we see about the 2 hour? By hourly Stokes are nice and erect here as well, but will cross the downside with any sort of a closure below 30,400. So we do see that all lower term timeframes are on the same side right now and are building upon each other more importantly, but that also does mean that Bitcoin needs to continue upwards and onwards from this region ASAP. Now one other thing that I'd really be keeping an eye on for right now, if this is going to continue to the downside, is I want to see some sort of hidden bearish divergence start to be printed here. And actually right now we don't even have a chance to do that. So fair enough. Keep an eye on that one, but technically speaking, right now not present. So it really does keep on bringing up that topic of potential trap. But at the end of the day, at least for my own rules, I do not look at it as an actionable trap until price action meets that condition. Hourly, what do we see right here? Same thing. Actually, we do have a little bit of hidden bearish divergence between this point and this point, so it probably does come back down short term. And hourly Stokes, what are we looking at right here? 30,700 to the upside as long as we remain above there. So all lower term timeframes are building upon each other, and that would imply that if Bitcoin does come back down, especially below 29,500, there's a continuation. Obviously, that would be on new lows, so trend at the end of the day. Anyways, so with that in mind, is there anything else that I want to speak about on the lower term timeframes here? By hourly HVP is starting to expand here, so I do think that we are looking at a bit of a move in the short term, but I really want to see that carry on into the 4 hour actually. Moving on to the 12 hour and the medium term time frames, we do see that 12 hour Stokes are crossing back down and still kind of following this downtrend line, which did have a chance to break out of earlier this week actually, but did not take that and remained at the downside as long as below 31,200. So a bit of a difference from what we see from the lower term timeframes, and I do put a significant amount of weight on the 12 hour here, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to call this bullish divergence coming off the lows, between this point and this point. This is not confirmed as a low just yet. The only way that this gets confirmed as a low is by close, and I would say not a wick, but in this case a closure, just because it is contrary to the trend here, above the last wick high, which would be 31,722.5. If that happens, then yes, this will be confirmed as a local low. That will have bullish divergence, and then at that point, this is going to start to look a lot more like a trap as well. But for now, it's a potential. But I still look at price action first, and well, sorry, Bulas, but the O faces seem to have run out of their power for now. Let's see, what about the 10-hour? We do see 10-hour stocks nice and angled to the downside as well, as long as we're below 32,300-ish region. So the medium-term timeframes are on the same side and still pointed southwards. And as you can see right here, we do see a little bit of structural support or moving average support right around the lowest $27,000 region. We do see the 200 simple, yeah, right around there, of which I do quite like that. And I haven't really broadened out to the 10-hour chart in a while now. It used to be a little bit of a secret, but as you can see, even just blindly trading the 10-hour stokes, well, if you can get rid of all of these, if you can smooth these out, actually pretty damn good, to be fair. So with that in mind, still anchored to the downside, again, as long as you're below, what was that? What was the exact number? Okay, yeah, 32,300, which was very similar to the 12-hour, 31,300. Very interesting right there. So medium-term timeframes do say pressure down, as well as the higher term timeframes like daily, of which we do see daily stokes remain to the downside as long as below 31,500. So we could even say on a daily schedule, if Bitcoin does fail to close, or if Bitcoin were to close above 31,500 today, would that offer up the extra potential for looking at this as a potential trap? Yes, that would be the next sort of major criteria that I want to see fulfilled. But until that happens, I do remain bearish, and I do look for price action just kind of crawl its way downwards. Do we see anything on daily RSI here that could be interesting? Not as is, no, not as is, at least right now. And daily HVP clearly going to be going into a contraction phase here as well. So very, 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 very strange to actually see the bifurcation between the medium and lower term timeframes as it is right now, especially when we don't really see the rest of the market kind of following through. So I'm very hesitant right here, to be honest with you. I'm not trading this right now. I'm not trading this. I will trade down around here in the $23,000 to $24,000 region. I will trade above 40,000 bucks, but in this region right here, I think I will hold off, unless if I do want to do a little bit of short-term trading. But I think I missed my chance yesterday with the test down to the 55. Anyways, moving on to, okay, yes, we are on the 2-day right now. 2-day will have pressure down as long as below 38,000 bucks. As you can see, 2-day RSI, what do we see right here? Again, long-term constructive, so I do like this. The higher term time frame still holding up the macro, but actually probably does put in a bit of a bounce here, anywhere in the middle of the neutral zone. What about 3-day right here? What do we see? Coming back down, testing the 21, not super problematic for the long term. 37,000 bucks is magical number on this one, and keep in mind we did just get a new tick on this one. But what is concerning to me is that we do have this trend line coming in all the way from our last few macro lows. Now, when I say macro lows, I mean like actual macro lows. We're talking about the coronavirus stump in March all the way down to 4,000. Then we're talking about the reaccumulation phase in September, right around 10,000, about 10,350, I think it was. So with that in mind, this would be speaking towards the very long term. And this is again specifically on the 3-day. So if we did come back down around it and fulfilled another test on this, well, we actually can't really forecast a price for that, especially when it's probably a few days, when it's probably a few closures out, which could amount to a few weeks. It is something to keep an eye on, but it's going to be moving slow like molasses here. And then what about the weekly? I do remember looking at the weekly and having something major to say about this. Yeah, weekly stokes, nice angle to the downside. Same sort of thing going on right here as well. You can essentially just draw a regression through here. That would be coming in right around the edge of the bullish control zone. But as you can see, that would imply obviously a little bit more downside in the short term. More importantly, though, what I wanted to speak about on the weekly is that weekly RSI actually does look like it kind of wants to bounce here. Problem is, this is a bit of a toppy formation on weekly RSI, at least in the medium term. So while it probably does bounce, that would not necessarily be, not really be conclusive in and of itself. Problem is that it actually probably, this usually see this sort of formation actually turn into a bit of a head and shoulders and then come down and then actually come outside of the bullish control zone. So yeah, it actually does kind of imply a bit of a bounce here, especially on increasing volatility off of a test off the 10 simple. Very interesting. This is very interesting right now. It's very, very interesting, actually. Let's go see what CMEs have to say. Okay, so CMEs did clearly close on lower lows here. Yes, popping back up in the short-term time frames, playing out some bullish divergence right here. Okay, what do we see on 4-hour stokes? About the same as what we see on spot price action as well. I'm just trying to see if there's anything different or more obvious that we see on CMEs. And thus far, no. 12 hours about the same, 31,800. What about the daily? About the same as well, 32,000. As long as we're to the downside. Again, doesn't look too hot right here, but CMEs is a lot more obvious on a potential trap. If we do see any sort of a daily closure above 32,650, that'd be good enough for me, and I would be looking for a move back up towards 37,500 at the very least, and maybe even back to 40,000. And at that point, maybe even just another breakout to the upside, as everything would be getting on the same side. But for right now, you know, I would exercise caution with Bitcoin. Just in case, man, just in case. Let's see, can we do anything on Ethereum here too? As I do believe that one could have a bit of power to bring the rest of the market up. And what do we see right here? We do see a bit of a rejection on the 3-day, to be fair. That is going to potentially put in some bearish divergence between this point and this point, but this is not confirmed as a local high just yet. Would it be confirmed with a local high by taking out the last 3-day low? Nah, probably a little bit too aggressive for me. I want to see a closure below that. And if we could maybe nail it down on a daily, what would that look like? Yeah, any sort of a closure below the 21 on the daily probably does precipitate that. Technically speaking, we do have 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence on the daily RSI now as well. And daily momentum oscillators are technically to the downside. But here's the thing. It is going to turn up right back above 1305, which we are currently about 20 bucks away, or sorry, 30 bucks away from. And with that in mind, if I did see that condition met, again, that would make me bullish on Ethereum, looking for, you know, I think it was like 1800 would be the next target based off of nothing, because I don't have my fucking indicators in here. There we go. Come on, baby. Show it to me. Where are you? Where art thou? There we go. Okay. There we go. Yeah, and it'd be 1700 would be the next pattern target, and then 1800 would be the next extension target. But more importantly, right here. Oh, actually, we also do see that the bottom support trend line for what would be your ascending triangle is coming in right around where? Right around just below 1200, actually, at about 1195 to 1190ish region, depending upon which time that actually approaches that region. So with that in mind, if it does start to break this, that would be another damn good indication that we're going to see the rest of the market likely come down as well, probably confluent with the Bitcoin continuation to the downside here too. So I do think I would actually give Ethereum a chance, mostly because I do think that actually could potentially lead this market. And if it does, then I'd be looking for that fake out to play out on Bitcoin, and then probably target somewhere around 37.5 if I can find my damn slippers over here, keep my nice footsies warms. It's like, how big of a bitch am I? can't deal with these cold feet, man. It's bad. Jesus Christ, man, we are so weak as humans. At least I am. Anyways, over here, the 12-hour, what do we see? 12-hour momentum oscillator is pointed southwards as well as daily, but again, it is right around the corner, so I would exercise again caution with this. If this one comes down, obviously Bitcoin's going to come down as well. Targets to the downside would be just below $1,000 for a short-term bounce, but ultimately don't think that things would stop there. I do think that things would come down to about 700 or 750 before the next potential reversal back onto the upside. And there Bitcoin goes back down to 31,150. Jesus Christ, man, that was this one's just whipping around right now in the short-term time frames. Must be fun. Anyways, and hey, hold on. I think I said earlier that yes, there actually would be hidden bearish evidence. This confirms as a local high. Short-term target back down to $30,000, but I wouldn't put too much weight on that. It's gonna probably gonna happen a little bit too fast there. Doesn't really imply much more than that. I want to see continuation here, really. Anyways. Okay, let's see what traditional markets have done. Yeah, this is also really concerning here too. So we did see a bit of a rug pull yesterday on NASDAQ. Yesterday come down to the 21. Yes, it probably does bounce here, but ultimately this is going to start to really call into question the efficacy of this, or the legitimacy of this last part of the rally, as a bit of a fake out again, mostly due to what I see on SPY, because this one actually has confirmed 1, 2, 3, 4 drives of bearish divergence here off the high, accompanied by a jewel sell signal, a very good one actually as well, and then daily Stokes popping down on it, increasing historic volatility. That to me is likely to get continuation. I wouldn't be surprised if this one comes all the way down to 35.50 over the next few weeks, but again, does move a lot slower. And yeah, we do have a bit of a bearish engulfing dildo here as well. Again, you know, if I'm going to look for a fake out here, what would be the criteria? I'd want to see a daily closure back above 3,800 at the very least. But for right now, it's not really looking too likely, to be honest with you. But again, you know, we do have the weekly closure coming in tomorrow, so I would be, might as well be patient for that. What else would this be accompanied by? Yeah, weekly bearish divergence, 1, 2, 3 drives coming off the highs here. Again, if this is confirmed, if we see any sort of a closure on this weekly below last week's open, especially at 37.50, which we are currently about $15 below. Again, a lot can happen in 2 days worth of trading. But if that condition is met, then yes, next target to the downside would be just below 3,600, probably bounce there, and then we'll talk about further extension potentially if warranted, if necessary. What else do we have? Looks like Tesla's a little bit of downside. I remember that there's a bunch of stocks having earnings this week, so that's probably driving the narrative right now in the old media, as well as GameStop. Let's look at fucking GameStop. Why not? I've gotten like a million messages about this, and it's hilarious. You don't want my opinion on GameStop, man. I haven't really been watching it that closely. I mean, how do you explain something like this? Well, more buyers than sellers, but yeah, it's a bit of a short squeeze here, and by a bit of a short squeeze, I mean an absolutely astronomical and just a completely deadly short squeeze. This is insane, though. This is pretty insane. So in my experience with these sorts of moves, they always end on just a absolutely euphoric, parabolic, just blow off in the same way that you see Bitcoin, and then it quickly gives it up after that. So a lot of people want to know like how to trade something like this. Well, assuming that you didn't get long, at a comfortable price, like below $30, we'll call it, then what I would, typically the way that I've seen these play out in the past is you really don't want to try to guess the top before it actually gets put in. You want to wait for a confirmed reversal, of which we actually have our first sort of toppy-ish dildo looking like that right now. And that would be confirmed by coming back down below the low of yesterday, which was $249.72. If that condition is met, then game on. I'd be looking for some serious downside. Probably does come back down, fill the gap at 145, 150-ish region, plays out a short anemic bull trappy bounce, and then continues its way down, back down below, probably even where this thing even fucking started at $20 over the next year or two, whatever it ends up being. It's probably going to take some time, but more importantly, my main thing here is I'd wait for the reversal to be confirmed. Right now it's potential, but just as you saw a couple days ago with this one right here, which did look a little bit like a toppy dildo, I would still wait for confirmation because this one never got really confirmation by going back down below it. So with that in mind, it's potential, but not there just yet. Keep an eye on it because when it does happen, it will happen fast, and it will be absolutely fucking brutal, by the way, too. A lot of tears coming. I also was reading like a lot of these posts on, I think it was Reddit, where people were, fantasizing about, oh my God, if GameStop goes to $2,000 a share, I'm going to be able to afford rent for 6 months. And it's like, listen, man, I'd be very happy for you because I do think that, more, just less pain in the world, especially financial pain, it's probably good for everyone. But, that's the way that most of the public thinks is, it's like a lottery ticket, basically. I highly doubt it goes to fucking $2,000. But I guess, that's the narrative. It's kind of like in cryptocurrency land where everyone tries to one up each other with like more and more ridiculous and insane predictions. Like Bitcoin's going to 100,000 this year. Fuck you, man. You're too bearish. $250,000 and nothing less. Hey, man, did you know that Ethereum's going to go to $50,000 this year? No, dude, because it's definitely going to $100,000. It's like, what game are we playing right now? All of these are just absolutely insane. As a trader, you just can't be looking at something like that. As a long-term investor, maybe yes, but I would severely question where you're getting these ideas to begin with. What is it based in? I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm just saying maybe calling a 500x or 50x increase here for something like Ethereum within a year is maybe a little bit immature, maybe a little bit irresponsible. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Anyways, go check out Ethereum, Bitcoin. I'm curious how this one's doing, as I do look at it kind of representative of the altcoin index in a sense. Would I still be looking for a pullback here? I do still think it could pull back a little bit more. Anywhere around 3.7 million Satoshis would look good to me, but ultimately I do like continuation of uptrend here. So the general crux of the message is I would look at that as an opportunity. Weekly RSIs, very, very healthy, very bullish. Weekly Stokes looking very good as well, back in the bullish control zone on increasing volatility. I like all these together, especially breaking the actual trend here as well. Ultimately long-term, I would be looking for this one to get up to 6 million plus Satoshis. So short-term pullbacks, do I think that it's worthwhile to talk about? Potentially, yes, but Yeah, I mean, it does look like it wants to pull back here short term, but I probably wouldn't put my name on it though. Anyways, long term, it still is looking pretty damn good there. So that's very interesting to me because if we were to see the prior narrative of the market play out, we expect that when Bitcoin comes down, pretty much everything comes down as well, and they come down more rapidly, meaning that the Bitcoin rate will also get shattered. So in this case, that would obviously not be the case if we do see long-term continuation. So again, it's really calling into question the actual breakdown here that we're seeing in Bitcoin. Again, I do run with the assumption that it actually is broken to the downside, but there is criteria for an actual fake out here, and that will produce targets back up quite significantly to the upper $30,000 region, and probably even just continuation after that, unless we get just like in just a catastrophic bull trap, which obviously can happen as well. But let's fucking wait for that one until we actually get in that region first. Jesus Christ, man, getting way ahead of myself right now. What about Link? How's the rest of the market doing? Short term, good. Likely pops back up to its $25.5 high. Looking at daily, looking good as well. Just stair step its way up. I really like this chart. Still looking nice and healthy. Weekly's continuation. I'm not bearish on this thing at all whatsoever, but then again, Link kind of does do its own thing rather consistently, so I don't look at it as representative or as linked up with the rest of the market, to use a bad pun. What about Cardano versus Bitcoin? Looks very similar actually in a lot of ways, but short term a little bit more downside angle, to be looking for it to pop back down towards 960. But keep in mind there is a golden cross, so I'd look at this as a test of the golden cross. If this fails, well, then we are going to go for the full retrace. But first things first, I treat it as if it's real until proven otherwise. It gets proven otherwise by, especially coming back down below, let's just call it 900, because that's easier to say and easier to remember. What about Litecoin? What's Litecoin doing? Litecoin looks a lot more like Bitcoin. Clear downtrend here on the daily. Probably looking for the next stab down to about 112 region. What about Litecoin, Bitcoin, just out of curiosity? Yeah, absolute dog shit here. I'd be looking for another full retrace back down to 383,000 Satoshis. Looks bad, man. Looks really bad. Momentum also is turning down. Hidden bearish divergence. It's like, it's got nothing going for it, baby. Nothing going for it. Where is Charlie Lee when you need him the most to tell you that he's already sold? I don't know. Charlie, where are you? Where art thou? Anyways, we'll go back on to Bitcoin over here. And this is going to be a difficult wrap up because there's so much to cover. It's like, what do I want to focus on for now? Maybe we start over here with Mr. Bureau. Actually, we don't even need to use our secondary charts today because all of it's happening on the primary ones. I think we will start off with Mr. Ethereum. We'll give a bullish twist to this because the fucking YouTube algo absolutely loves that. Just kidding. At the end of the day, I want my analysis to be kind of like neutral, if anything, because it's always about risk reward. It's always about pivot points and how biases change. But the general information is just neutral. It's just information. Where the fuck is my Ethereum? No, not this one. It's my other one. Where are you? Where are you? Found you. Ha, nice one. All right, let me just take a sippy sip of this water. We'll get going here. Let's wrap this bitch up. Oh, so good. Oh, feeling a lot better after a good night's sleep too. Okay. Let's throw these babies on for a second. There we go. Let's maybe pop back on over to this one here too. Or do we want to do it on a 4-hour? It's all the same shit. It's all the same shit. Alrighty, some interesting market dynamics at hand today, as we do see Ethereum still showing a little bit of short-term promise here, as we do see 4-hour Stokes still pointing northwards as long as above 1225, of which we are currently about comfortable $60 above. 3-hour Stokes on the same side, same area, 1223 as well. Bi-hourly Stokes showing 1250 and hourly Stokes showing 1255. That's what I'm trying to say. 55 maybe. So short-term actually would be looking for a little bit of a pick-me-up on Mr. Buterol, probably back up towards the 1325-ish region. But the critical thing here is to be aware of the medium and higher term time frame closures, which I'll focus on the daily right now. If that condition is met, where the lower term time frames actually do lead on into the daily, then we could see daily momentum oscillators pop back up again above 1308 would be the magical number. Once again, fulfilling another test of this long-term regression, going all the way back to our September lows when Ethereum was like trading at $350. Why is this relevant? Why am I telling you this? And why am I starting off with this? Because if Ethereum does pull through to the upside here, I would imagine that Bitcoin probably does as well. And the criteria that we're going to set out for a potential trap will very likely be met, and that's going to initiate targets into the deeper $30,000 region. However, as it stands right now, this is really on the edge for Ethereum. Now, first and foremost, if we are going to look for a reversal to the downside on Ethereum, then I'd essentially look for everything else, because Ethereum was leading this last little segment of the market. So if we are going with the rotational theory, then, well, everything else kind of follows through with it. And that would be confirmed by either taking out the 22nd of January low, which is 1050 about, check your exchange once again, or closing on new lows, which would be anywhere below about 1111. Or if we even just do close below the 21 exponential moving average right here, that would probably be bad enough for myself. And I'd be looking for, at the very least, to test back down to that $1,100 number, and that probably does lead to a breakdown, to be fair, as momentum oscillators would be pointed southwards as well. And you kind of look at the avalanche of effects just pointed southwards towards, well, a move back down below $1,000. So with that in mind, if Ethereum does lead on to the upside here, and it does actually break out to the upside, which would be met by a 4-hour closure above the 1.272, our current structural high at about 1438 region. If we're looking at a daily, what would that same area be? At just anywhere on new highs above 1395. On a 12-hour, that would be actually the same as a 4-hour, about 1430-ish region. So if any one of those three conditions are met, then yes, I would still look at this as an ascending triangle breaking out to the upside, which does have a measure move up north towards a 2-spot extension at about $1,700. However, doubt things would stop there, except for a short-term pullback, and ultimately melt on up to the 414, the 618, which is in the upper thousands, around 1800 to 1900ish region. So with that in mind, I do still think that is possible here, and I'd actually look for Ethereum to kind of give the call. But by contrast, we do see that Bitcoin is is on the verge of doing a lot of other interesting things. Now, we did get the bounce off the 55 that we spoke about yesterday, but I did say that if we did close below this blue box territory right here, bounce probably does get sold into. So I actually do still run with that former assumption. Now, how high do we get on this bounce? Well, I don't know, could very easily pop back up towards 32,500-ish region short term. But the key thing is, and what I really want to spend some time talking about right now, is potential trappy trap behavior here, which means that if Bitcoin does come back up and actually close at the very least on a daily, back above the 21, which is about $33,000, a little bit above $33,000, on a 12-hour above 33,150, or on a 4-hour above same sort of hump that we had over here, this major rejection at 34,500. Then I'd be looking at this as a major bear trap, and we could start targeting moves back up towards 37,500 would be the next obvious target after this area. But realistically, probably does pop back up to the deeper $30,000 region. I do think that is possible here, just because we aren't really seeing the volume signature that you'd look for on a breakdown like this, and also our other metrics are not necessarily there just yet either. So I do think that it is potential to actually have a trap here, but until those conditions are met, I do look at this as more or less more or less not so good on the lows. So with that in mind, I do run with the former assumption, I suppose, as a trader, that we are still downside angled here. But if that condition is met, I quickly go back onto bullish, and actually would be interested in those trades within that region. Not that I'm really taking shorts right here either, but if Bitcoin does want to continue to the downside, how would you know? Well, first and foremost, it just wouldn't get back above those regions that we just spoke about. And then more importantly, I'd want to see another close on new lows. Anywhere below about 30,400 would do it for me, as that would turn all momentum oscillators on the medium and higher term timeframes to the downside. Actually, they are below the down, or sorry, they are on the downside right now on the 12-hour, as long as we're below 31,300, on the daily, as long as we're below 31,500. So those are kind of the critical areas for today's 12-hour or half day and daily closure. As long as those conditions are met, I still do look at this as likely to pop on to the downside. And next targets to the downside would be driven by our descending triangle formation right here, which is in line with the $23,000 to $24,000 region of our prior consolidation coming in from early to middle of December, which is also confluent, of course, with the weekly 21, which if you listen to fucking anyone on the YouTubes, everyone knows about this one now, but has been the sort of like harbinger of bullish of Bible bullish dumps, if you will. It's a terrible way to put it, but what I mean to say is that in our bullish markets, in our macro bullish environments, that is, all of the tests down to the 21 exponential moving average, assuming that it does have a positive slope, have been actually amazing buys, to be fair. And as it is right now, the 21 is currently hovering in right around $23,000 and rapidly rising. So on the next closure on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, probably does pop back up somewhere right below $24,000. So you can see that there's a lot in the cards right there, but I really do want to see this next continuation move before I do get super bearish on this one. because at the end of the day, you're not really seeing the exact signature that you'd expect to see right here. What you'd expect to see is you expect to see open interest shoot up, and in fact, we've just kind of seen it like hold the region here, and we'd expect to see all momentum all sort of still pointed southwards, which we don't exactly see right now. So there is a major potential for a trap here. Again, the conditions are very much set. I'd look for Ethereum to probably be a little bit of a greater insight into the overall direction. And with that said, I do want to wish you the best and the happiest. I'll be back on later with some more lightning round wrap up. And with that said, until next time.